Hello people, welcome back to Go Sleep MMA. In this one, I'm going to be ranking all the fights on UFC 300 from least anticipated to most anticipated in my personal opinion, taking into account, where these people stand in the rankings, how competitive I think the fight's going to be, how entertaining I think the fight's going to be, and of course, a little bit of personal bias is going to be, weathered in between all of these beautiful, beautiful fights. But I will say, the only thing that really doesn't matter to me that much is card placement. Like, you'll see where Cody Brundage versus Bo Nickel is, and I'll explain to you when we get there, but it's not because of where it's placed on the card, okay? So, starting things off, first things first, I gotta go with Holm versus Kayla Harrison. Honestly, for the sole reason of I don't know if it's going to happen. Because I don't know if I think Kayla Harrison is going to make 135 pounds by Friday. She is massive. She used to be a fucking lightweight, cutting weight to 55. I don't know. If she does, you can put this in the 12 spot rather than the 13 spot. And you can change the fight I'm going to talk about in a second. But I also think this fight has massive potential to be a fucking stinker. I think it could just be, if she makes weight, it'll just be Kayla Harrison judo throwing Holm to the ground and fucking landing pitter-pat shots and side control. That's basically all that I see happening here, and that's if she's even able to make weight. I think she's going to weigh in at like 139 pounds or something. And if Holm's a dog and still wants to take the fight, hell yeah, but I still think that would even make it more boring and make Kayla Harrison more able to just put her on her back and not do anything. But moving up to the number 12 position, I'm going to go with Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. Listen, I'm not a guy who's just going to hate on WMMA fights, but this just shouldn't. Jessica Andrade, Marina Rodriguez just shouldn't be on UFC 300. Not going to be a very entertaining fight. Relatively low level compared to the rest of the card. And when it was announced, I think a lot of people in the MMA community like myself really agreed, but it was kind of like, why on God's green earth would these two women be booked for UFC 300? We could have got Alexa Grasso defending her title again and made the main card way better. But, kick Bo Nickel off the main card, kick these women off the card, and add Alexa Grasso versus Valentina 3, although they're coaching tough right now. But you know what I mean? Like, this just isn't the WMMA fight for this card. I didn't understand it when it got announced. I still don't understand it, and I don't love it. Moving up to Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage. Admittedly, this is where it is at the number 11 spot, solely because I don't think this is going to be competitive, nor does it really matter to the UFC middleweight division. I think Bo Nickel's going to steamroll Cody Brundage, win by knockout or submission. I think he'll basically do whatever he wants, win in a round, maybe two, and it's Cody Brundage. I mean, if we had Bo Nickel versus someone a little closer to the rankings, or even in the back end of the top 15, he would be higher up. The hype would be bigger. And I'm all in on Bo Nickel. He's going to win. I think he's going to do really well in the sport. But this particular fight doesn't really do it for me. And, if Cody Brundage wants to show me up and make this an absolute dogfight, I would love it. But as of right now, this fight gotta be at number 11. Moving up on the card, two old heads fighting. Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. A chance for 40-year-old Jim Miller to crack back into the UFC lightweight rankings. I think it's going to be an entertaining fight, but I just think in terms of, the title picture, the future of the sport, and competitive nature and all those things, I just don't see this fight being up there with the best. But it is a banger fight. I think it's going to be a dog fight. I got Jim Miller. Go check out all my prediction videos. They're out on the channel now. But listen, in terms of what tier this is in on this fight, on this card, I just don't think it's very high. It could end up being an absolute banger, though. I think it will. All these fights, even the worst fight on the card, could end up being a banger because it's UFC 300, But in this one, I got this at number 11. Moving on to the top 10. This one might be a little surprising, a little low for some people, but I'm going to go Aljamain Sterling versus Calvin Kattar. It's a classic grappler versus striker matchup in Aljo being the grappler coming up from 135 after being knocked out by Sean O'Malley. And Calvin Kattar being, of course, the striker, the bigger man with the reach advantage in the featherweight division. I believe he's the number 1 ranked bantamweight versus the number 7 ranked in the featherweight division. I see that this fight is going to be competitive. I think Aljo gets chinned. I do. But I also, the reason it's so low, I think it has a pretty good chance of also being a stink fest. I think Aljo, if he's able to get the takedowns and he's not really able to really do a whole lot of manhandle the guys at 145, I could see it being boring, but I could also see Calvin Kattar just absolutely chinning him. And I am excited for the fight. Starting now are really the fights I am excited for, but they have to be somewhere on the list. Moving up, Renato Moicano versus Jaylen Turner. I love Jaylen Turner. There is probably some bias here, but he's so explosive, fast, massive for the lightweight division. And I just think that Jaylen Turner is going to knock out Renato Moicano, be able to avoid the takedowns, avoid the ground game, and even if he does, he'll hold his own down there good enough to be able to survive. And this one, 2 ranked lightweights, definitely has a little bit of implication. The winner of this is definitely on route to contender status. I do not think Renato Moicano is really in his prime anymore. I think Jaylen Turner is just really entering his prime. I think this one's going to be a beatdown, relatively one-sided. I have Jaylen Turner winning this one. And if it was a little more high stakes in the lightweight division, it would be a little bit higher. Or if these guys were more highly touted prospects, it would be a little bit higher. But I don't really see this one mattering that much in the lightweight division. Moving on, Alexander Rockit versus Yuri Prochazka. Yuri Prochazka is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. Rockit is pretty good, jacked, huge. But I think Yuri is going to make this one entertaining, make this where it's supposed to be, and end up getting a knockout or a decision win or something like that. I think Yuri got this one done. And again, all these, the ones that are staying a little bit lower are just the ones that I think have the possibility for one of the fighters to kind of stink it up. And I think Rockit, if he's able to get the control, able to get some takedowns, he'll be able to just kind of win this one on control time and ground and pound shots. I really hope Mark Goddard isn't in the fucking ring for this one. Ruin Yuri's night again, because I do think the Poatan fight was an early stoppage. I think a lot of people would agree on that. But this is a great fight, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. Moving up, a bit of a prospect one. This is one I'm really looking forward to. Diego Lopez versus Sadik Yusuff. 2 budding stars in the featherweight division. I absolutely love this one. The aura, the electricity of Diego Lopez is undeniable. And I think he's going to come in and have a career-defining moment in this fight, breaking himself into the featherweight rankings. And after this, the world is his oyster. I mean, he's definitely going to be a full-blown contender in the top 15, getting some really big fights the rest of the year, coming next year. And I hope this really just shoots Diego Lopez from prospect to contender status. And I really think it could. But also, Sadik Yusuff could get a very big name on his resume, stopping the hype train of Diego Lopez, handing him his second loss in the UFC. But in this one, of course, I got my predictions already out. I'm going to take Diego Lopez in this matchup. Moving on, the highest rated WMMA fight on the card, Yang Janan versus Zhang Weili. I really like this fight. I absolutely love Zhang Weili. I think, again, even though this is the fighter that I think is going to win and that I like more, Zhang Weili has the potential to stink this one up a little bit, but I do just think the China versus China narrative, the absolute warrior mentality that is Zhang Weili, I think this will be a firefight. I think it'll be a dogfight. But at the end of the day, I do think in the majority of the exchanges, I'm going to take Zhang Weili to be beating Yang Janan, but I think it'll be relatively entertaining. I mean, as long as they're striking, this will be very, very fun to watch. Yang Janan, definitely the better kickboxer, but you could even argue that Zhang Weili is more powerful and pretty technical on the feet herself. Better wrestling, better ground game. But I don't really see this one being that competitive, and that's what keeps it a little bit lower, but still pretty high. Next up, we got Deivi Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. I think this one is going to be a firefight till it's not. Who's going to drop first? Cody Garbrandt's going to drop first. But I think this is going to be just a test of who will swing with the most power, who connects first, and who got the better chin. And I think the more power and the better chin goes to the former flyweight, moved up to bantamweight in Deivi Figueiredo. And I don't know if I see this one being that competitive, but I see this one being very, very entertaining. Two former champions, of course, opening up the early prelims, which is disrespectful. They should be a lot higher, especially with Cody Brundage versus Bo Nickel on the main card. But this one will be entertaining, mark my words. And honestly, I'm rooting for Cody Garbrandt here. If he can get it done, I'll be a happy man, but I don't think it'll happen. I am a Cody Garbrandt fan. Moving up to the top 3 fights on the card, the main event. Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. If Jamal Hill was coming in fully healthy, not having an Achilles injury less than a year ago, on a full, didn't find out at 298 training camp, I think this could probably be number 1. But all of those things considered, I still think it's an absolute banger of a matchup. Two of the best strikers, two of the hardest hitters in the entire UFC, especially the light heavyweight division. I think this is going to be kind of similar to the Garbrandt-Figueiredo fight. A test of who's going to hit first, faster, harder, and connect on the chin first. We know Poatan got a bit of a questionable chin. We know Jamal has a fucking crazy chin, but I think Poatan has better power, more technical on the feet. And I just think this is going to be a fantastic fight. No real complaints about it other than the injury. Moving up, the second best fight on the card, in my opinion, Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Olivera. The highest level MMA on this card. Two incredibly well-rounded fighters in the lightweight division. Charles Olivera, the best grappler in terms of jiu-jitsu in the UFC. Arman Tsarukyan, some of the best wrestling in the UFC. Both incredibly technical on the feet, powerful, fast twitch, explosive. This fight, I think Arman's going to get it done. I think Arman's going to knock him out. But this has absolute war, absolute dogfight capabilities, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that this fight really lives up to the expectations that it is. And it is essentially a number 1 contender fight. While Islam, I think he's going to go fight Dustin now in June. Islam will take on, after he beats Dustin, of course. He will go on to fight the winner of this fight, whomever it may be. Now, my most anticipated fight on the card, the BMF title. I wish that title didn't exist, but just this fight in general, Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. This is the fight that I picture being an absolute war. Back and forth. Both guys landing big shots. Both guys rocking each other. Of course, Justin Gaethje is the stronger man. The better chin definitely falls with Max Holloway. It will be a test of is Justin Gaethje's power enough to crack the chin of Max Holloway, or will Max Holloway's pressure be enough to crack Justin Gaethje? I'm really looking forward to it. I cannot wait for this fight. It scratches every itch that I have as a UFC fan. I am a grappling lover. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy myself. But no one hates just a classic stand and bang, two dudes ready to throw it all out there in the octagon. And I got Max in this one. I'm going to take Max by decision. Again, all my predictions are live on the channel. Go check those out if you want. But yeah, that's the order in which I got from best to worst, or least anticipated to most anticipated fights on UFC 300. Let me know what positions I got wrong, what positions I got right. A lot of fights on this card are kind of interchangeable with one another. There are some fights that a lot of people are looking more forward to that I'm not. For example, Aljo and Kattar, even though I am looking forward to it. It came in at, I believe, the 10 spot for me. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think in the comments. Subscribe if you love all things MMA. Go check out my prediction videos, and thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, go sleep.